Well, the promoter of this monster event on Sunday Australian time is Eddie Hearn. This must be a bit of a pinch yourself sort of a moment. You're in charge of a big event with a couple of superstars like this.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the grand arrivals, I was sort of standing there thinking, wow, I used to watch these fights with Mayweather and look at these grand arrivals. And I guess we're well, formerly small business from Essex, England. And I'm a British promoter promoting the biggest fight in America between a Mexican legend and a Kazakhstan god. So as a fight fan, Ben, it's amazing to be part of. The first two fights were epic. I expect the best of the three, honestly, on Saturday. There's so much bad blood and bad feeling. The guys are getting very short now as the fight approaches and stuff like that because they're desperate to win. And, I think it's going to be a war.
I've just spoken to both of them, and Canelo, he was very forthright. He clearly doesn't like Gennady Golovkin and a lot of things that he's had to say. But Triple G himself, I've never seen him like this. He is really fired up and angry.
Yeah, I think he's Canelo doesn't like the way that Gennady Golovkin won't say what he says to the media to his face, and Gennady says, "I don't dislike him," and they dislike each other immensely. They cannot stand each other. They respect each other as fighters, but Canelo's, outright said, "I want to knock him out. I won't be happy unless I win this fight inside the distance and stand over him and end his career." And I love that from Canelo Alvarez, but he's coming off a Bivol defeat. That air of invincibility has just gone a little bit around Canelo Alvarez. As the fight draws closer, there's a lot of people telling me they think Gennady Golovkin's got a great chance in the fight. I think 168 is going to really help Gennady Golovkin in this fight. He's been making 160 for 15, 16 years, and I think it's going to be a war.
Yeah, it does feel that way, doesn't it? Everyone seems to be coming on board with Golovkin's chances. Does that have anything to do with the way that he's looking? You've been next to him this week. Certainly speaking to him, he seems to have an edge.
He looks good and he's huge. Everyone always sort of outsizes Canelo Alvarez. And as I said, making that 160 championship weight for 15, 16 years, it's going to take his toll. And I think when the weigh-in comes on Friday, I think that Gennady's going to feel great at 168. Probably thinking to himself, wow, if I had to take 8 pounds off now, I'm not sure how I'd feel about that, And I think that you sometimes forget it's also for the undisputed championship. Gennady Golovkin's chased that for a long, long time. He's got a chance to become undisputed champion this weekend. Obviously, Canelo Alvarez, a lot of pressure on him because back-to-back defeats for the pound-for-pound number one, ultimately, would put him in a very strange position in his career. So there's actually a lot of added pressure on Canelo Alvarez, and for Gennady Golovkin, it might be the last roll of the dice. But these guys are going to put everything into this fight. Gennady Golovkin will not take a backward step, nor will Canelo Alvarez. They'll meet head on. And I really believe this fight will end inside 12 rounds this time, despite the fact that both men have absolute granite chins.
Well, we saw that in the first two fights. What do you think, looking back on those two fights? You didn't promote them, but what do you think the results should have been?
I think they're very close fights. It depends, how you score in the fight. Golovkin was very productive with a jab, and in the second fight, Canelo Alvarez, unbelievable game plan to sort of walk him down, and which no one thought you could do to Gennady Golovkin. And that actually, you talk about that air of invincibility that the Bivol defeat sort of inflicted on Canelo Alvarez. It was a bit like that with Gennady Golovkin. No one had ever walked him down, pushed him back. And you saw that coming off that fight, that when Gennady went into like the Derevyanchenko fight, people started to believe that they could do that against Gennady Golovkin. I think Canelo Alvarez is going to do exactly the same thing again. I think he's going to walk Gennady Golovkin down and try and stop him. But he's going to walk into heavy artillery because Gennady Golovkin can really punch. And, I don't want to see, if I'm in the corner of these guys, I don't want to see my guy taking big shots like they did in the first and second fights, because sooner or later, one of those is going to put you to sleep, and I really believe that's what will happen. I don't think Canelo necessarily possesses the one-shot power to take Gennady Golovkin out because of his chin and his durability. And I don't think, I think that Canelo Alvarez's chin is so good that Gennady Golovkin, can he land the one-shot quitter, that will put him out? I don't know, but I know that both guys are going to be trading off in this fight. And that's when you see explosive knockouts, because both guys are going to be trying to force the action and force the stoppage.
Yeah, gee, it's such an exciting fight this weekend. While we've got you, though, got to get an update on what's going on with Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury negotiations. Where are we at now?
Yeah, I mean, we've accepted their terms. We're waiting on a contract. You know, if everybody's true to their word, I think there's a great chance you'll see that fight December 3rd at the Millennium Stadium. Still a long way to go. Obviously, DAZN and BT, the two broadcasters, have got to get together and get the right line of action on that, which I think they'll do. You never really know with Tyson Fury, and I am skeptical, but we've done all we can. We've accepted the terms. We've signed for this fight before, and we're ready to sign for it again. So fingers crossed he's for real, and then we get to see it.
Does AJ believe that Tyson Fury is for real this time?
He hopes he is.
Yeah.
He has his doubts as well, but I think he's sort of, I wanted to negotiate the terms really, but AJ said, look, rather than give him an excuse not to take the fight, let's accept all their terms. And hopefully they're for real. And if that's the case, then we've got a fight.
I have to give you congratulations for winning the purse bid on what's a really big fight in Australian female boxing with Ebony Bridges, your world champion, against Shannon O'Connell. You went really hard to secure that fight. It clearly means a lot to you.
Yeah, I think, Ebony, it's a big fight in Australia, but it's also a big fight in the UK. I mean, Ebony Bridges has become a really prominent name on the UK boxing scene. She's based over in the UK now. She just won the world championship on a huge show. She has a big fan base. There's a very good chance that fight will take place in the UK. Obviously, Matt Rose wanted to win that fight and stage it in Australia, and we had a good back and forward, me and Matt. And it's good for the fighters because both fighters are going to get career high paydays for that fight. It's a really good fight. Obviously we've got our big show coming up on October the 15th, Paro and Jarvis, and it won't be on that card, but it could land in Australia later in the year. But I think more than likely you're going to see that fight either in the UK or on the Montana Love Stevie Sparks show as well, which obviously has some common Australian interest as well. Australia now, as you know, Ben, going to be a really prominent market for us. And it's not just about doing fights in Australia. It's about taking Australian talent and putting them in big fights internationally on our cards as well. So obviously that was part of the reasoning behind Stevie Sparks signing with us, giving him the Montana love. Dempsey McKean, already talking to him about Dillian White fights, and maybe even one day bringing AJ to Australia to fight someone like Dempsey McKean, and keep bringing this Australian talent through and giving them big opportunities to fight internationally as well. I was with Liam Paro last night in Las Vegas training over here. I'll tell you, Paro Brock Jarvis is going to be a war, mate. An absolute war. I mean, wait till we get Angelo DiCarlo and Team Paro around Jeff Fennick on Fight Week. We're going to have a lot of fun. There's a lot on the line for those guys, and it's going to be a great night.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting one for sure. There's a lot to unpack in what you just gave us there. So Bridges O'Connell could potentially end up in the US, the UK, or Australia. But do you feel most likely the UK?
I do. Yeah, I think so.
What's going to decide it?
I think because of Ebony's fan base in the UK, and she wants to fight in the UK. That's not her home now, but that's where she's based. For her boxing, so it's going to be a big advantage for her to bring O'Connell to where she's at. To fly her over. To experience a time zone difference, to be in really Ebony's backyard, which the UK has become. She has a big fan base here. She's going to have plenty of support in the arena as well. And I'm looking forward to building that, within the Australian boxing community, which I've found is very passionate, but still quite small. That fight is well talked about. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to Liam Paro or Dempsey or Sky Nicholson. They've all got an opinion, of that fight, and they're excited to see that fight. So I don't rule out Australia, but I think UK is the front runner.
And with regards to AJ potentially finding his way to Australia at some point to fight against Dempsey McKean, if these negotiations with Tyson Fury were to fall over, you've talked about AJ doing something of a world tour. Is there a possibility that Australia is amongst those countries?
100%. But you need the fight. And, if Dempsey keeps on winning, right now, Dempsey's in the top 15 of two governing bodies.
Right.
If he wins on October the 15th, if he gets maybe another win against a notable name, why not? Listen, I'm a massive cricket fan, and to do the fight at the Gabba would be pretty special in Brisbane, for Dempsey McKean. And AJ, whether it's Zhang in China, whether it's McKean in Australia, whether it's, Manuel Char in the Middle East, there's loads of opportunities to do fights like that. But, if we're going to really take Australian boxing to the level that we'd like to, we need to bring those huge international names, you know, whether it's Canelo Alvarez against, I know, Tszyu in time to come. I don't know, but, you know, Katie Taylor coming over, like, you need to bring those big international names and fights. And you've seen your government make that investment to bring those big names and big fights there before. So it's a distinct possibility.
Would Canelo be open to coming to Australia for a fight against?
I think he would love to box around the world. You know, I mean, look, Tszyu's at 154. He's got his hands full with Charlo, but in time, I'm sure he's going to move to middleweight and maybe even beyond. But you know, you're going to have to build the prominent names in those divisions to bring those household names to create a big fight. You know, you did it with Pacquiao, Horn, obviously Kambosos against Haney. And now, you know, if you're going to bring an AJ, you're going to bring a Canelo Alvarez, you need to build those fighters in that division. But I'm so impressed with Australian boxing, what I'm seeing, because, you know, the promoters over there are working really hard and putting great volume of fights on. You know, whether it's, I think Gallen, is it tonight, or is that taken place yet? You know,
yeah, it's tonight our time. Yeah, tonight.
Yeah, you got, you know, our show on October 15th. You've got Tasman. You know, you got Duco. You know, you've got Devin Haney coming over again to fight Kambosos. Like, when you've got that amount of promotional companies and you've got the broadcaster interest, you know, whether it's DAZN, whether it's Fox, whether it's Stan, you've got a great future over there for boxing. And we just got to keep growing it. You know, I've seen the ticket sales from our event in Brisbane. We're going to be sold out. It's going to be a great event. It's just about momentum. And I'm really hopeful of our business there, but also hopeful for Australian boxing as well.
And we're excited that we can now officially announce that you're bringing AJ to Australia to fight at the Gabba against
and Canelo on the same night.
To fight against Tszyu, maybe in Sydney at the new stadium. Anything else for us? Any other?
All good, mate. No, all good. We'll see you soon.